Some joy, more relief. Yeah, it's probably it. We get to coming into the bye, we probably get to smile for a little while. We haven't had that for quite a period of time. And
this result took most by surprise, and it should, because it was a total reversal of the season's trends. Coming into this game, the Suns were ranked number 2 for clearances, while the Blues were ranked last over the past 3 rounds. The biggest factor in Carlton's victory was the 12 unanswered goals, mostly in the second quarter. Of their points, the Blues scored 72 from stoppages, and 50 of those from the centre bounce. The Suns aren't a great team, but they actually are a good stoppage team, so these particular outcomes should be the opposite. What did Carlton change to enable this performance? Was it an aberration, or is it sustainable?
The centre bounce blitz in the second, that was extreme. We weren't able to hold up. You obviously can't get extra numbers back when it's coming out like that.
You can see from the worm and territory graphic that the second quarter was the crucial difference, and it was the 2 spurts of centre bounce goals that broke the game open. The structural principles are defence first, particularly against a stronger ruck, secure presence in the back, space to run into in front, and there are small variations in shape, but similar principles apply. The tactical principles are handball to runners wide and front, kick fast and low to targets. Quick and high kicks are a last resort. At the start of the second quarter, Witts wants to tap forward and right to Rowell, while Pitnet wants to tap to his right for Cripps and Kennedy, and he wins the tap. You see here a pressured, then easy gather for Cripps. Now either Ainsworth on the wing or Anderson as sweeper should come at Cripps, but that would just handball release the next closest player, so it's still the same idea. With the ball, Cripps hits a running Walsh into space, who can kick to advantage. A couple of minutes later, Witts taps forwards to Davies, but misses. Note the positioning of the Carlton Rovers. All 3 are prioritising the space at the back of the contest. Chera collects and begins a handball chain. Quick, decisive passes to ultimately release the winger running through in Doherty, who is able to get a targeted deep kick forward, the most dangerous type of clearance for marks and crumbs. Check out the rotation on display here. Carlton are prioritising the back of the contest. They are leaving the Suns sweeper free while maintaining pressure on who they think Witts is targeting. This movement generates a lot of momentum. Fogarty is primed to explode forward out of the contest. Cripps shows his inside talent as he bulldozes the ball forward despite a tackler. From this point, Carlton's run and handball is enabled. It doesn't have to be pretty, just get the space and time for a player to kick into the forward 50 deliberately. It is worth a mention that Carlton do have genuine tall marking threats. De Koning gave away 2 frees for pushes in the back last round, so it's nice he used the body a bit better here. So what are the best doing? Look at Melbourne's shape. 1 at the front, 2 at the back and sides evenly spaced. This allows them to tap in any direction, it gives them defensive solidarity, and crucially, it gives them space to run forward on both sides. We see a handball chain releasing a kick, which almost generates an uncontested mark 30 metres out in front. This second example shows the same pattern, a handball release to a forward runner who chooses a good option. This shape is something that Melbourne can do really consistently because they have such dominant rucks, and other teams have to adjust to them. The Suns have decent setups. Here they use the Demons' trademark 1 forward 2 back. They just have no reward because they lack the same ability to spread and composure to handball, which means worse opportunities created. In this clearance they were fumbly and congested handballs slowed them down. Anderson and Holman did well to generate a low kick forward, but it wasn't to advantage and was intercepted. Witts does well to tap to Swallow running forward into space, but because Carlton are prioritising defence well, he's under proactive pressure. Swallow can't find the handball release to Rowell on his left, and likewise, Sexton elects to kick through traffic instead of releasing Davies, again left. The smothered kick is easily intercepted and rebounded. In this last Suns example, notice the structures and rotations. The Suns basically run 1 at the front and 2 at the back shape, good for offense. The Carlton rotation starts and ends with 1 at the back and 2 at the side, again illustrating the prioritisation of the back half. Swallow gets a great tap from Witts, but he has no momentum or target to his quick kick, so it's a high, shallow, and not any danger of creating a score. If we look back, there weren't really any options for Swallow to handball because of Carlton's pressure, unless he went to Witts, but ruckmen who can and want to run and kick are rare. We'll look now at the around the ground stoppages, and it's important to establish some structural norms, so let's start with the defaults. Then we'll look at what Carlton have been doing and what Carlton changed and why that's making a big improvement. Melbourne versus Collingwood again. We've got a really nice wide shot for a pretty typical setup from both teams. I hope you like it because we're going to stay here for a minute while I go through and articulate structures and roles. The norm is for the rucks to move forward to meet the ball while wrestling for position. The 3 inside mids for both teams typically sit in front of them. You'll usually see some one-on-one wrestling and some blocks put on. The wings on the boundary side will sit opposite each other as sweeper, while the other wingers usually sit on the far side of the ground. If you're thinking, hey, wouldn't that leave them open? You're right, and how teams resolve that is diverse and one of the most interesting tactical questions in the game right now. Typically, a half-forward flank will come up and sit on that opposition sweeper, and that can leave their opponent open but further behind, and teams don't mind that trade-off. So on the inside, we've got a mirror matchup. 2 rucks, 6 inside mids, 2 wingers being marked by 2 half-forwards, and 2 half-backs further back. The forward you see here is just ahead of his man who's out of screen, so don't worry about him. Now it's not all stale, there's some little tricks already on show. Notice the Collingwood winger who's dropped back to man up on a half forward, which frees up a defender as a spare against Max Gawn, and that's a really good trade-off. If I show you the setup, you'll also see Maynard and Nick Dacos swapping position to put Dacos as that deeper sweeper, which is also a really good trade. Carlton have been using a tactic designed to increase inside space and generate stronger clearances, but it has backfired more often than it has worked. This moment versus Sydney in round 11 shows that best. Chera is usually the inside mid designated to man up on the opposition sweeper instead of a half forward. In this clip, Rowbottom as the Swans' third inside mid follows him. This creates a 2v1 for them and it leaves Hollands free. Usually though he's pressed by a Swans half forward, as we see in this clip where he's closed down immediately.
In and out of the hands of Hollands.
So if we play forward the main clip, Pitnet pushes the ball forwards into Sydney's numerical area, and Sydney are able to handball it out to generate a really good look for a kick, and it leads directly to a goal. So in summary, Carlton haven't been getting anything from their wing sweepers this season. Having a 2v2 inside instead of a 3v3 hasn't helped, and Carlton haven't shut down the opposition sweeper either. Against Gold Coast, one of Carlton's half forwards, typically David Cunningham, pushed up into the midfield contest. Carlton still had one of their inside mids pressure the opposition sweeper, but their inside presence was massively bolstered. In this example, Cunners provides that inside body and pushes forward really hard to make a strong impact going forward. That kind of movement is really hard to defend against because it's so quick. In this example, Cunningham pushes up into the sweeping area of the Suns, provides really solid defensive pressure, and gets rewarded with a free kick. Just to reinforce a similar best practice example, here Chandler the half forward pushes up into the midfield to defend. His opponent Pendlebury is just behind him off screen, and this frees up his midfielder who gets the clearance kick. Chandler then beats his man Pendlebury forward to follow up and gets a good shot on goal. There's a lot to talk about on this, but I've run out of time. So to summarise, the Voss approach has fostered medium kicking through the zone seen here. Carlton are trying to play a balance of tempos, which means slow, medium and fast when appropriate. The players haven't really got used to thinking through match scenarios yet.
So it's been tough at times. It's been really, really tough. But fortunately, they've stuck at it. We've had to correct a few things, a lot of things. And this is just one small step in that little bit of direction.
Kicks down the line are awful, and until this game, we were doing way too many of them. Read this article from the ABC for more insight. And lastly, the selection change to put Doc permanently on the wing has been a revelation, and I hope that continues, and I cannot understate that. Can Carlton do it again? Is it a sign of new times?
We've been able to at least execute a hell of a lot better in this game. To be honest, I sort of thought a performance like that's been on the cards for a couple of weeks and hasn't been necessarily put all together.
What we can expect to continue is the style and structures. In clearances, this means defensive pressure first, half forwards pushing up, handballing to a free player running forwards, and then kicking low to a target. From open play, this means medium kicking through zones and a varied tempo. The aim is to create high quality opportunities. What's going to stop is extreme accuracy in front of goal we saw this game. In the second quarter, Carlton's scores per inside 50 was 92%, and that is just crazy. Now, partially the reason Carlton had low accuracy before was they were creating low quality chances. So the truth in future will be somewhere in the middle, but the question remains, where will that be? And in general, that's the greater question for Carlton. They've corrected some crucial structural, style and selection issues. So, where is the ceiling? How good can Carlton get?